Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today, Masech Zevachim daf Nun Vav. We're going to begin on the bottom of Nun Hayamid Beis, second line from the bottom. I'm Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel. Ein chayav mishim tuma. You're not going to be chayav tuma. Says Rashi, Hanichnas tami lo harbayis. Someone who enters while you're tummy into the harbayis. Eno chayav elohim ken nichnas osoich hekef chalal azara. You have to go inside the azara. As we're going to see now, as we continue in Nuvamon Aleph, Oyrech Meya V'Shmeinim V'Sheva, 187, Al Reichev Meya V'Shloishim V'Chamesh, and it's width 135, which basically is the entirety of the Azara. So the point is that you cannot enter into the Azara while you're in a state of Tumah, and therefore that is the dimensions. And the Gemara continues with that same amount of dimensions. Tani Tanakamida Rav Nachman, Kol Hazor Haisa Kuf Pei Zayin Al Reichev Kuf Lamed Hey, 187 by the width of 135. Armulei Hachi Armulei Abba. This is what Abba told me. Kagain Zeh Kohan Raknasim Lasham. In that Azara, that area, that is where the Kohanim could enter. So Kashi Kadashim have to be eaten in the Azara, which we say cannot be in Chutz Kilayim, which basically means outside of the Azara. The Sheichnin Sham Kadashim Kalam. Of course, the Shechit of Kadashim have to be on Besafain. However, when it comes to the Shechit of Kadashim Kalam, can be anywhere in the Azara. V'chayav mishum tuma, as we just said before. So what does that come into exclude? When it comes to the windows around the Azara on the inside, the thickness of the walls, so it's not true. The windows as well as the thickness of the walls, those walls, can you imagine, like the thickness of the walls, in all of those walls are considered like inside. Which is actually what we said before, which we called that in yesterday's daf, Sidi Studin. It says Kagain Lishchais. That we excluded the sides of the sides, which have to do all these like side rooms, because even though the doors enter into the Heichel, but they're outside the actual building, the rooms, if you will, these rooms are outside of it. So we say, if it's built outside, but the doors are open to the Kodesh, Vatanan, Taichin Kodesh Minurabanan. The whole din of Taichin Kodesh is the din Durabanan, says Rashi. Right, so he said that apparently it should be Kodesh. You should be chayav also by the doors. So Rashi says Minurabanan. Mitzvahs chachamim hi shel yichnasu lehen b'tuma. Even there, you should not enter tuma. Avol kares or carbon leka. There's no din kares. There's no chiv carbon if you are in tummy in l'shchais. It's only din derabanan. So therefore, there's no carbon. There's no kares. Okay. So he said Rabban, V'deraisa lo v'sanya l'shchais b'noyes b'chay b'suchas b'kaidish menayin shekohanim nechnasu m'shem v'oichin shem kashi kadashim. Actually, it must be like the Azara, because they can open up that door and go into the l'shchais, and they are allowed to eat kashi kadashim. But I thought kashi kadashim can only be eaten in the Azara. V'shiri mincha, as well as the leftover of the mincha. Talmud leimer b'chatzer oyam moyid yochaloha. Hatar bivsa chatzeros harbe. It's al chilachas. So we see it's a kasha. We see that the l'shchais do have this level of kedusha like the Azar itself. So the answer is it depends. Rabbi l'chil shiny. When it comes to eating, so we have a pasuk which is a gzeres hakosav, as Rashi says, the Rabbi Bakra. Chatzeres harbe. It's a more inclusive language of the pasuk. However, when it comes to tumah, we don't say that the l'shchais have the same din as the azar. Okay, Vasanya. L'shchayis habenuyis b'chaya b'suchas l'kaidish kohanim nechnasam l'sham v'oichin sham kachik kadashim. So they're allowed to eat the kachik kadashim there. However, it says v'ein shaychin sham kadashim kalam. You're not allowed to shech the kachim kalam there. The kachim kalam have to be in the azara, cannot be shechted in the sadi stadim, which are the l'shchayis. So basically, before we get to v'chayav and mishum tuma, so the question is, before we get to the question, it says that it's only considered to be like the azara le'inyan regard to the kohanim eating kachim kadashim because it's exeris akasav. However, otherwise the shechita cannot be done there for the kachim kalam. However, then it says v'chayav mishum tuma. Now lav amrit ein shaychtin. So taninami in chayavin. So really, you should change the word to ein chayavin. Now bisham in shaychtin. I understand where it says don't shecht over there. Being a keneged a pesach v'leika, because the shechita needs to be keneged a pesach, and it's too far out because you're inside that room. El ein chayavin amai. Why would you say that you're not chayav for tuma? V'latamei in shaychtin milu askina the ika shechita keneged a pesach. So maybe you could still do the shechita connected to Pesach over there. Di leika, if not, lamai israch. Like, what's the whole? What do you need this for? Of course, it has to be connected to Pesach. El afa gav the kosh shachak connected to Pesach. Even though you would shecht it technically pretty well because it is connected to Pesach, still tani we insert ein shecht and mishum doloi kaddish because it's not kaddish. So tani nami in chayavin. Also, you're not chayav. However, ulachila will be eaten keneged Pesach. So how is it possible that you could eat in these l'shchais? L'chayra, it's not keneged Pesach. V'sani Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, shnei pishpushin hayu bebeis hachalifos. Which you can actually look at this picture on the previous Amud. There are these two pishpushin which go into these like entranceways to the beis hachalifos, which is the place where they would put the knives. They would hide the knives. Goyvin Shmoino, he said it was very high. So that you would be able to eat in the azara, the kachim kadashim, or shchitas kachim kalam, and also shech there. So the question is, how do you understand this? If you can even eat it inside the l'shchais, so then what's being said over here, the purpose of this pishpushin is so that it kind of like the ulam room like opens up into the stadim. Why does it even tell us that? You can even eat it in these l'shchais. So Ravina samim mekan achila. Actually, you should delete the word achila. But the pasuk says, let's get the whole pasuk. Pasuk in Vayikra Ches, Vayomer Moshe Aaron. So Moshe said to Aaron and to his kids, Bashal es habasar, that you should cook the meat, Pesach al Moed. V'shom toichel oiso. It says by the Pesach al Moed, that's where you should eat it. It says it clearly. That's where. V'esalechem asher basal hameluyim, in the bread on the basket. Fine. Yochlu, you should eat it. So what do we see from this? So it says clearly that you should cook the meat by the Pesach Moed with Shom Toichu also. So apparently, we find this pasuk which substantiates where it should be eaten. The answer is Kadshe Shah Shiny. What does that mean? First of all, so let's look at Rashi. Gezeres HaKosov Chayisa B'Meluyim. This is Davko when it talked about the Meluyim, that this is the requirement. It had to be in there. But Kachi Dairais, when it comes to the Kachi Kadashim for all future generations, this Rabu. So the point is, you're right, when it came to the Meluyim, for whatever reason, there's a Gezeres HaKosov that it could not be eaten, apparently in the Lishchais. However, not when it's talking about the all the everything afterwards. So the Shivas Yemei Meluyim took upon itself a different din. Okay. All right. Let's look at question 11. L'shchais habenuyis b'chol psuchas l'kodesh into the Azara. Him oichen shem kadshi kadashim. Yes, except for the Beluim. Him chayav shem mishum tuma. So he said, you're not chayav mishum tuma. Okay, that's basically it. Okay, let's keep going. From where do we know that the dam which was supposed to be sprinkled during the day, but for whatever reason do the zrika, that you can no longer do the zrika after sunset? So how do we know that that's the case? Never, because the pasuk says b'yoyim hakrivu es zivchai yoichel. So it says on the same day that you're makriv the zevach, it should be in b'yoyim shata zavech hata makriv, b'yoyim shiyata zavech hata makriv. So basically, this is the pasuk that tells you that it's necessary that the same day that you bring this carbon, you have to do the zrika. And if you don't do the zrika, it's too late by shkia. So so is that true? That's what we need it for. As we continue to nun vav amid beis, we need this pasuk of gufa to tell us the thing itself. Says Rashi, l'lamed, to tell us zman achila shlomim, that you have when it comes to shlomim b'yoyim, you have that day, zevichasa umamacharis, you have the next day as well. So im kein nemakra b'yoyim zivcho yoichel hakrivu lamuli shmamino b'yom ata shiata zavech atamakriv b'yom shiata zavech yatamakriv. Okay. So the dilma hachikamer rachman, maybe this is what the pasuk is saying. Ikar dam, and if you do the hakravas adam today, nis achal basar inna, then you can eat it today. Ulamachar, and you have 2 days. However, if you carve down ulamachar, if you say, okay, I'll wait till tomorrow to do it, then apparently maybe it should still be okay. Just nasach bas ulamachar uyom orta. Then you could eat it that day and the day afterwards. So im kain nemakra b'yom hakrivu yoichel zivcha ilam lishma mina b'yom shata zavech ata makrivu b'yom shiata zavech yata makrivo. So we're not going to accept that as a possible answer. Okay, so all right, let's keep on moving. Itmar, hamachashev or shlishi, someone who has a machshavas pigel regarding the night following the second day. So I shecht it, and I'm thinking that, of course, you have the day and then the next day. So my machshav is I'm going to also eat it the next night. Now, we don't do sreifas shlomim for noiser dafka until the third. But that night, we don't eat it, but it's not something we burn until the morning. So therefore we have a machokas. Chizkim are kosher, Yochanan and Omer apostle. Chizkim are kosher, that even though he had this machshav, the holo intik l'sreifa, because it's not burnt until the next day. So it's only when you have this machshava of chutz lizmanoi, but it's not chutz lizmano because it's not done for burning purposes yet. Not until the next morning. Rav Yochanan apostle da irchile machila, because you can't eat it, and since you can't eat it, so therefore that's considered to be a pigel machshava. Ha'oichel or shlishi, let's say has the machshava to eat it on the third day, which you know you're supposed to burn it. Chizkiya omer potter. Why? Do intik l'sreifa, because it's not time to burn it. So again, or shlishi. So let's get this before. The first one was hamachashav or shlishi, and here is ha'oichel or shlishi, someone who eats it on the night, right? So it's actually you, not that you had a machshava, but you mamish ate it. So really you're supposed to burn it the next morning, and we technically don't want you to eat it that night. So the question is, did you violate anything? So chizkim or potter do intik l'sreifa. So he'll say you're going to be potter because it wasn't fit to be burned yet. Rav Yochanan mechayev do inchi le'machil, because since you're not allowed to eat it, so therefore you weren't supposed to eat it that night, and therefore you'll be chayev. Tani was Rav Yochanan kachim hanechal mu yoyim echad. Let's say you have kachim, they have 1 day to eat it. Mechashmin b'dalman, a person has a machshava it will cause problems mishatishka achama, from after the sun setting, because after shki you're not allowed to do the zrika. If you have a machshava of doing the zrika after sunset, then that's chutz l'zmanai. U'v'saron of imurayin, when it comes to its meat and its sacrificial parts, mishel shachar, because we know hekter chelavim ve'avarim, you have that nighttime. Okay, kodshim hanechol mishnei yom v'layel echad. When it comes to kodshim, which can be eaten in 2 days and 1 night, machashmin b'daman mishatishka chama. Again, it's totally on that night. That once the night finishes, and this is a support to Rav Yochanan, who says that if a person would eat it on or shlish yirchai, because it's idchei machila. So once it's shkis achama, you can no longer eat it. U'memorehin mishel shachar b'sarim. It's meat mishatishka chama shel shnei yomim. So again, that's a raya. Question 12. Chishiv lizrok ol hakter imurin ol echol basar chutz lizmano pigol ma hu chutz lizmano dedam imurim basar carbon shlomim. Wow. Okay. So when it comes to dam, it's considered to be an issue of chutz lizmano if it's after shkis achama. Okay, that we know. The imurim is from alos hashachar, because you had the whole night to burn it. Basar, it depends. Chizkiah says maboiker shlishi, choose man sri fasai, because that's the time you burn it. And Rabbi Yochanan says even from shkis achama of the second night, because you can no longer eat it. Okay. Let's maybe see another question. Let's take a peek at TA6. Lishchois habenuyos b'chol b'suchas l'chodesh l'inyan ma dinin k'kodesh l'inyan ma dinin k'kodesh min ha'Torah. L'inyan ma dinin k'kodesh. Okay, so this is nun vav and aleph. So we know that regarding the Kohanim being able to eat the Kodesh Kodashim, it's considered Kodesh. Regarding Shchita and Tuma, it does not have the din of Kodesh, at least midiraisa. So that's nun vav and aleph. Great question. Which is also question 11, basically. That's TA 6. Okay, good question. All right. TA 7. Nope. Question TB 9. El kachim hoyu nechom davka pesach el moyed. So I would say this kachim kedoshim was soicha kalayim, and I wrote chatas oif. I'm not sure where the chatas oif came in, but kachim kedoshim was soicha kalayim has to be pesach el moyed. And that we had over here. So let's get this down. It says ein sheichtin. So bishlam ein sheichtin beina keneged haPesach v'leika. Right. So that is the requirement. TB. Let's see if Rashi helps us out over here at all. Okay, that's TB 9. Okay. All right, so again, the question is then how can it be done l'shchais? Okay. That may be it for the rest of the daf. So let's see this last little piece. Tanaban. Yochliyu nechalim l'or shlishi. This is actually brought down elsewhere in Psachim. Okay. There's also other Masechtas, but it's quoted in Psachim. So you would think that you could eat it or shlishi, even on the third night. V'dinu Zevachim nechal l'yoyim echad, v'zevachim nechal m'shnei yomim. There's some karbanos they only have 1 day to eat it, and then we have the one that we just mentioned, right? Which we didn't read the Mishnah, but maybe we should have, right? When it comes to shlomim, so it's shnei yomim v'layil echad. It says you have 2 days and 1 night. So the question is, you would maybe think, where was I? You would maybe think, Take, that you could eat it or shlishi. the night following the second day, because you have day, night, day. So, but the next night, no. But dinu, maybe you could. So Zevachim nechol miyom echad, Zevachim nechol mishnei yomim. Ma Zevachim nechol miyom echad laila charein. So he said there's certain karbanos you have that day and then that night until chatzos. So maybe we should say the same thing. Av Zevachim nechol mishnei yomim laila charein. Maybe you should be able to do day, night, or maybe day, night until chatzos. As a gezer, Talmud Leimer v'hanaiser ad yoim. It says until the day. So v'oid yoim hu nechol, which means that when it comes to the shlom, you can only eat it on the second day. Then a nechol or shlishi, but not the second night. Yochi yisarf miyad. Maybe you have to burn it right away, even right after Shkias Acham at night, not wait till the next third day. B'dinu, Zevachim nechol miyom echad, Zevachim nechol mishnei yomim. Mazo nechol miyom echad, tekev achila sreifa. When it comes to, you have day and then night, let's forget about chatzos, let's just say you haven't told about a shachar, mikardin. So as soon as you're done eating it, if there's any leftovers, you burn it. So you would think that since you can only eat it day, night, day, so after Shkias Acham, maybe you think you have to burn it right away. Because the custom is clear, it's the only burn during the day and not at night. Adkan.